this design wall that we have in here now. I will be sharing at the end of this video how Quilt-along works, how my particular Quilt-along works. I know that when I first came to Instagram and to the world of quilting, I had never heard of a Quilt-along and I didn't know what they were. So I'll talk about that after I share the quilts. So I have, my latest pattern is the Sweater Quilt pattern, and the inspiration for this was my love of fall. If you followed me a long time on my blog or Instagram, you know that I love the seasons, and I especially love fall. So I've made more seasonal quilts than any other kind of quilt, really, and even regular quilts. My favorite quilts to make are Christmas quilts, Halloween quilts, and fall quilts. Last year, I made a fall quilt of the Knitted Star quilts by Lo and Behold, and I used solids, and it just turned out amazing. One of my favorite quilts that I've made to date. I wanted to do the same thing this year, and I love sweater weather and I love sweaters. So when I was thinking about everything that I love, you know, last year's color pool I based on the leaves in Ohio, and this year with fall I thought, you know, I want to design something that reminds me of all the things. So what started out as a Christmas quilt, like Christmas sweaters, I started realizing, but this would look so good as a Halloween version, and it would look so good as a summer version and a fall version. So I kind of nixed any Christmassy specific things and decided to just go all regular, all neutral, so you can take it with any season. And so for the first version I did a Christmas one right here, I'll hold it up in a bit, with Riley Blake Christmas Adventure. It was brighter than what I normally do, but I loved this line so much I decided to go for it. My second version I did was the fall version, and those are all the solids that I thought reminded me of all the fall things, like pumpkin spice lattes and baking and sitting cuddled up by the fire, apple cider, just all of those like warm feels that I get from the fall time. That's what I wanted this quilt to feel like to me. So let me start off with the Christmas one. This is the Christmas quilt. It is a row by row construction, which is really nice because these blocks are separated by stripes. There aren't a lot of seams to line up vertically or horizontally, which is just, it's really nice. Because if you've ever had to line up a ton of these star seams or 4-patch seams, it can be really difficult. But with, I'm gonna hold this up here real quick. With this one, there's stripes in between. I wanted this quilt to feel like a sweater. And I feel like when I look at a Christmas sweater or a fall sweater, I read horizontal lines, and that's where the inspiration for this came from. This line is the Christmas, it's called Christmas Adventure by Bev McCullough, Flamingo Toes, for Riley Blake. And it is a super fun line, guys. I can't even tell you how much I love this quilt. So you can see this line has the most adorable Christmas lights. That is probably one of my favorite parts about this line, were the tiny Christmas lights. And then these baubles here. Look at that, with the little bicycle and the metallics. Bev did a fantastic job weaving the metallic throughout the line. You can see the Christmas light strings have the metallics. And then the other thing that I fell in love with about this line, of course, were the argyle stripes. You don't get more classic sweater than argyle. And again, it has the metallic in that argyle pattern. So this is what I meant by you're not having to match all these points at the top. You just have a stripe. Same thing at the bottom. There's no point matching here. You just have the stripe. The quilting was done by Lynn Sews and Quilts. I'll put her link in the description. She was a local long armor in Ohio, and she just did a phenomenal job. It's kind of hard to pick up on this fabric because it is very busy, but on here she did Christmas lights, and then she traced the 4 patches
right there. She outlined all of them, and that's freehand, free motion. So I can't imagine sewing that straight. On the star block, you can see she did some snowflakes that kind of matched the snowflakes in there. There we go. Isn't that great? So she did a fantastic job. And then the other thing, she did an argyle quilting pattern on the argyle. Love that. Now for the backing, I used a Minky. I almost always use Shannon Fabrics Cuddle Minky now. And I am telling you, in our cold and long Ohio and now Indiana winters, it is the perfect quilt backing. With Minky, you can actually see the subtle quilt patterns. No, you're not getting, you know, the detailed quilting, but you can still see the argyle effect, and you can see the stripes, and you can see the outline of the 4 patches. It is why I actually really do enjoy using the Minky, because it brings out that subtle quilting texture. And especially if you use just the regular Cuddle Minky, which is the shorter nap. This is the Luxe, so it's got a fluffier feel to it. The shorter nap really defines the quilting, and I have been very impressed with it. I've also quilted this myself on my domestic machine, so it's even good as a backing that you want to quilt yourself. All right, this quilt is probably one of my top favorites I have ever made. Look at these pumpkins. Lynn was able to center pumpkins on each of these stars. I just think that is phenomenal. Then we decided, and actually she kind of thought, well, what if we did some leaves, but along the whole way to really accentuate that sweater feel? And I loved that idea. It really does define that stripe. You can see on all of them. And then she actually traced the stars all around so that you would see the star texture. Isn't that fantastic? She also traced the thin stripes so you could see, and then once again outlined the 4 patches. In these smaller ones, she went above and beyond, because this is not a big space right here in between the star. I said, do you think you could put a mug, like a steaming mug? Because I love the different flavored coffees. I love the warm apple cider, pumpkin spice, everything. And she found this mug. Look at that. She not only centered it in the star block, she traced all of the star. Super talented. I absolutely love that. The patterns repeat throughout. And I just think this combination of colors was spot on. Now for the binding, I did use a stripe. I love stripe bindings. I actually have a stripe collection. Whenever I find a really good stripe, I buy it for a binding at some point. This was no exception. This was Lella Boutique's Folktale, and it was a subtle stripe. The color is almost like the gold, and it just went perfect. You can see here once again, I have used the Cuddle Luxe Minky. You can see the texture. This quilt is gonna look so amazing in our fall colors out here. I can't wait to take photos.
Post for the week so I can include you in the drawing for the prize, or direct message me your post for the week so I can include you in the prize. You don't have to become public as of right now. Someday, you know, if I grow a lot and then there are many private accounts wanting, I might not be able to keep up, but for now it's totally fine. Just send me your post for the week and then I can include you in the drawing for that. So that's if you have a private or non-public account on Instagram. But otherwise, if you use the Sweater Quilt-along hashtag, so the Sweater Quilt QAL hashtag, And tag me also helps because in that sends me an additional notification. I will see your post. Now, let's talk about a quilt-along. What is a quilt-along? A quilt-along is kind of an online or virtual sewing retreat, but it happens over a number of weeks usually. They can be quick, like 4 weeks, or they can be really stretched out. I've done one as long as 6 months. And the person who organizes it is usually the pattern designer of the particular quilt that has been done, and they set up a schedule. Everybody who buys the pattern can follow that schedule. You can work ahead, you can fall behind a little bit, but the schedule kind of helps people know what to post for that week. And the idea is that everybody can make the same quilt at the same time, but on their own time. So you're not having to meet at a specific place or quilt retreat when, you know, there are people that participate all over the world. So you can have that community there. So I have done a quilt-along that, like I said, was 6 months. And then I've done a quick one that was 5 weeks. This one's kind of in between. It's gonna be 8 weeks long. Once you buy the pattern, there is no cost to join. You're just going to sign up for the quilt-along through my blog. My blog's newsletter, that's where I'll be sending all the details through, and like the weekly recaps and everything. So that's quiltingfor4.com. I will put the link in the description of the video. And you sign up for the newsletter. I send out the newsletter that has all the information of the quilt-along, and of course following me on Instagram, checking my blog for the posts there. I'm gonna try and just have the information for the quilt-along on those channels here. For YouTube, I generally keep this more of like tutorial based and things like that. So I won't be doing updates here, but I will certainly share my finished quilt when I'm done with it. So you'll follow the schedule and then you'll post with the hashtag that generally the pattern designer comes up with. Mine is the Sweater Quilt, which is shown on the pattern, and then it's QAL, which is Quilt-along. So when you post, I can follow that hashtag and I can see everybody who's posting. I can share progress, and that's also how you're entered into the prizes. Sometimes there are prizes on quilt-alongs and sometimes there aren't. I actually have 8 prizes, so there's going to be a weekly prize, 1 weekly prize. And there are baskets that will be the prizes. I came up with the idea of themed baskets. I thought, you know what, it would be so fantastic to just have like each prize be a theme of its own, something for quilters filled with some things. So I have various baskets. A few are binding, I have backing, notions. So that's just kind of an idea, and I will be highlighting more of the prizes and stuff, like I said, on my Instagram, and then through the newsletter. So a quilt-along, there aren't really any formal rules. If you fall behind, there's no penalty. If you want to work ahead, there's no penalty. I know that some people will actually bust out the quilt and then take shots while they're doing it and then just post them every week with the rest of the schedule. That is certainly an option if you can do that. Some people end up falling behind. I know that when I've done some quilt-alongs, it might be, the quilt-along might call for like an entire number of blocks to be done, and I only got 2 of them done instead of the 6. That's okay too. Post the ones that you have done. Progress is progress. At the end of the quilt-along, there are 2 grand prizes that I have. One is going to be edge-to-edge quilting by Lynn Sews and Quilts. She's going to go ahead and do an edge-to-edge design for someone. And then Jackie from By the Block Quilting is also doing 1 free edge-to-edge quilting for a winner, and then offering 20% off for participants in the Sweater Quilt-along, which is awesome. So that way, if you need to get your quilt quilted, you can send it out to her. Trying to think if there's anything else that I haven't covered. That is pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at quiltingfor4@gmail.com. Leave a comment or a question in